Should I just give away all my beats because I'm starting out? Is my time still valuable? This is a question that I struggle with because a lot of up and coming producers will ask me, like, hey, I don't think my beats are very good yet. I'm selling them for $5 on BeatStars or, whatever it is. What's going down, everyone? As you can see, the Illuminati is a powerful force. And Dame did flirt with the dark side for a while, but he's back. How are you feeling, Dame? It's been a long time.
I tried, but I guess I don't have the right blood type and I got rejected. So now I have to work in an office and I don't get any of the luxuries of the Illuminati. So I'm an Illuminati reject. And yeah, I'm in the office. Nah, but for real, I joined Two Loss. For people that don't know, Two Loss is a self-service distribution company. And I've never gotten behind, like even with the MEC, like I've never, pushed any other self-service distribution platform. Yeah. And I joined Two Loss. For people that aren't familiar, it is music distribution. We do music distribution and publishing. Because I really genuinely believe in the platform. Like, I think it's a dope platform. It's cheaper than most, but also it's like forward thinking. They're very innovative. There's a lot of tools and services baked within the platform. And I joined as their director of communications, and I'm going to be part of my job will eventually be like trying to build community amongst Two Lost people that use Two Lost. So, maybe do stuff similar to what we were doing with the MEC. I was thinking of like a weekly meeting where artists can come in and discuss like rollout strategies.
That's a good idea because that's always changing.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not just me giving feedback. I want, other artists to chime in with ideas and things like that. Maybe that could be like a weekly thing that we do that's in addition to, a lot of the tools and services that are like on the platform. So yeah, Two Loss is doing well. They're growing, and I feel really good about my decision. But I'm happy to be back on the podcast, Payne, as a guest. No pain, no gain. I hear it's going well, so bring me up to speed, man. What are we talking about?
Aaron got Chad Focus on here, and if you recall, Chad Focus is the rapper we spoke on years ago. I think when Kato was still on the podcast, when all of the news articles came out about him, stealing $4 million from a company, and that, back then, I think we reacted to the news. I've changed my perspective a lot after talking to him and just processing the initial story because it just doesn't seem to add up. But
give me a brief, like why did you change your tune, and then how so?
Well, a number of reasons. One, just general healthy skepticism and logic says you don't just suddenly abruptly steal $4 million from a company and them not find out, or it's there would be an immediate pushback. So there must be some other layer to that. Then the other element is that the same company was also charged federally shortly after Chad went to prison with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for scamming people. So, how much stock do we put in what the company's doing and how they're auditing and how much truth they're telling? And then just hearing his story. And
you saying the company threw him under the bus? Like he didn't really steal?
I'm not saying he didn't steal. I'm saying there was a lot going on and there were just a lot of layers. It wasn't this straightforward thing. And then I think the articles tied his $4 million theft to these pretty frivolous expenditures, like a billboard on Times Square and this and that. And, when we spoke to him, the billboard was actually not something he spent the money on. So there were a lot of misrepresentations presented as facts. So we want to have him on a part two, but yeah, it was an interesting story. And then we also had Jay Oliver, aka Fresh Air, on last week to discuss his experience because he was witness to the rise and fall of Chad Focus, and I can't even say the rise and fall because Chad's doing well now, but he, police were pursuing him for questioning after everything happened because he was producing a lot of Chad's music. He was with him when Chad was spending some of that money. So it's just, I hope the rumors are true and there is a Netflix documentary on the man, because I would watch it, and I really don't watch anything.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I haven't really dove into the details. I just saw. I think I saw. I don't know if I saw. I definitely didn't see the whole episode, but I might have saw a clip or maybe just a little bit of it. Maybe I saw Brandman's interview with him.
Yeah, Brandman. Yep.
Brandman interview with him. I don't know. Just that I don't know the guy. I just the tone just doesn't sit well with me in terms of how he was talking. It sounded like he was getting back into grifting. I have no idea
Oh
what
yeah,
he's doing.
I think there was a disagreement among the three of us about his streaming bot method, right?
But yeah, because I remember him saying something like, well, like the majors are doing it, and like I don't give a shit who's using bots. Like I know that that's not like shouldn't be part of anybody listening to this plan. Like it shouldn't be. I don't care what the majors are doing. Like it doesn't. I don't care if you're justifying something because majors are like that. Doesn't matter to me. Like what the independent route is about stacking fans. Building your fan base, fan by fan, and just building momentum. To me, it has nothing to do. I've never used bots. Maybe there's a positive way to use bots. Maybe there's a not so. I don't know that, but it didn't sound like that's what he was doing. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna leave that over there. That's not anything that I want to, emphasize or teach to the people that watched our podcast. So I just kind of left it over there.
For the sake of argument, let me just ask you this, Dame. If there were a way off of bots to invest, say 5,000 and make 7,000 back, so now you have a net gain of $2,000 a month, and you're using that to fund your music career, is that valid or is that helpful?
No, because it's not like Spotify doesn't allow. I mean, if you get caught, you're gonna get your page shut down, right? So let's just say you're building the right way, and now you're up to 100 million. I'm not 100 million, 100,000 monthly listeners, and you've got some good momentum, and you're trying to skip a step and use bots, and now you shot up to 500,000 monthly listeners, but then you get caught, and then you get your page shut down. Now all that authentic, the 100,000 monthly listeners, now you got to start all over again. Like I just wouldn't touch it because I know it's not allowed by Spotify. I know a lot of people get away with it. Like I see a lot of people even within Two Lost. The CEO of Two Lost sent me a couple, and this isn't bots. This is something else, but it's still not okay. There are people that are uploading songs that are not theirs and either speeding them up or slowing them down, and it's not being caught right away by the algorithm. And some of those streams are like going crazy. He showed me two profiles the other day. I can't remember the songs, but like there's only like 5 songs uploaded on the profile, but each of those 5 songs had like 5 million, 10 million, 10 million streams. So I just don't think you should be playing games, because if you're really trying to build a legit platform, if you're doing things that could potentially get it shut down by Spotify, I think that's a dangerous game unless you want to just start all over. I don't.
I want to pick up on that because that was a question that Aaron and I had. How are artists going to these platforms, uploading music that they don't own that's just sped up? So just speeding it up somehow circumvents the content ID detection?
I think so as of now. I mean, it's getting better. I mean, I think things are getting better. And I know that Two Lost by itself is doing a lot of things to combat fraudulent streams, but I also know that like the industry at large is doing something to combat. I think there are even like distributors getting together and like forming an alliance, sharing information, things like that, so that you can identify some of the shady players. So, scams only work for a little bit of time, right? Until there's some more controls in place to shut down, that way of doing things. So I think even speeding up or slowing things down, hopefully there's some technology that will catch those even in the very near future. But that's one of the ways that people are, just sometimes making a lot of money on the platform.
Well, given how disastrous Content ID has been, I'm not really excited for these so-called anti-fraud measures being rolled out. But the follow-up to that question is, all right, so let's say I get a song that's not mine, like I don't know, a Summer Walker song or something, and I speed it up, upload it to my distributor. How do I title it so that millions and millions of people come to listen to it and I get all that money? That seems like something that would get caught right away if I labeled it as another artist's song.
I think they labeled it the same name as the song, obviously just not with the artist name, but it's like the same name as the song. That's what I'm looking at now.
If that's the case, then okay, what's stopping me from just dropping a beat tape and naming every single track on the beat tape after the top 10 Billboard songs? Because then I wouldn't get in trouble. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not infringing on any copyrights by just using a same title, as long as I'm using my own music. So would I end up getting a huge boost in my plays if I just did that?
But I think once people hear it, like, people recognize it as that song, and they like the sped up version, and then it just, if people start liking and saving it, it starts picking up, momentum within the algorithm, because they're already familiar with like the more popular version of the song. So I don't know if just naming it would do the same thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I think people recognize, once they hear it, they recognize what it is. So
what a world we live in.
But my thing, and again, it just kind of goes against everything that we talked about for the past 6-7 years, right? In terms of like building a real audience. Like those aren't your fans.
Oh, right? Yeah, I'm not thinking in terms of that. I'm thinking in terms of me creating another, like a dummy account, making thousands of dollars there, and then investing it in like what I'm actually really doing. Because, extra $2,000 a month, that's music videos, that's graphics, that's merchandise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't publicly or privately, support doing that, because it's just, if you're doing it, I'm not going to tell on you or anything. It's just, yeah, I just wouldn't support it.
But Dame says sell drugs officially. You heard it first. So speaking of selling drugs, and just in speaking of just the music business and not so above board practices, I recently, I shouldn't have said anything. I did say something, but I'm not even going to get into that. I saw a post that was, public on Facebook, but very local to my state, that started going viral, and I'll share it with you. It has to do with a rather small capacity venue in a really small town. And I guess a woman who is an owner of a promotions company that books artists at this small venue, or maybe she works at the venue in some capacity, went on a rant about so-called barely known artists, bands specifically. We're not even talking about rappers and producers. We're talking about bands, which I assume is, likely 3 to 5 people, members and beyond. And she says, there are seriously barely known bands asking for $800 to play at our venue. Asking for $400 or $500 is bad enough. What the scene is turning into is pretty despicable. That's a strong word. You'll all be happy when there are no more venues for you to play to. I have a feeling that's sarcasm. Then you can continue to blame your lack of, that's cutting off for me, your lack of, I know she says lack of ambition, a lack of ambitions on lack of opportunity. I think everything that she's saying is interesting. but not because it's necessarily accurate or from a place of true insight. What is your first reaction to this rant?
I mean, I think it's a little bit extra because like my pops is a drummer, and I know that there are like, just restaurants or locations that it's not about how many people they can draw. It's like, oh, they're a cool band. We want to keep some entertainment for the night. And I would imagine that collectively they probably make like, 500 to jam out for a night. So I don't think asking 800, if that's what it is, like is ridiculous. Like that shouldn't have started a Facebook rant. But that to me is like separate from like an artist. If it's not an artist, like, so again, if it's a band that plays like nice music, they're professional musicians, their band play nice music, and it fits the ambiance of that establishment, then I think they should pay for that, whether they bring people through the door because of their name or not, right? But that's separate from like an artist, wanting to play and like charge for tickets to see them at the door. You know what I mean? So it sounds like maybe this barely known band was just like my pop's band and just say, hey, we're adding to the ambiance for the night. It fits the vibe. Say it's like a jazz club or whatever, then they should be paid. I think she's just being super extra. I don't It definitely didn't warrant 5 sentences and using words like despicable.
Right. Well, and then the despicable line is commentary on the quote unquote scene. And I don't know to what scene she's referring, but bands have always asked for money because there's a lot that goes into being in a band, performing, maintenance, purchasing of equipment, transporting that equipment, wear and tear, loss, etc. So I'm pretty sure that this person just had a couple bad experiences that day and decided, you know what, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to post publicly about it and make it seem like this general problem rather than something specific. It's like if I have one or two rappers that drop the ball on buying a beat and I go on Twitter and I'm like, see, this is what rap is becoming. Broke ass, lying ass motherfuckers. Fuck all of you guys. Just wait until all the producers tell you suck a dick. It's like, that's really extreme and offensive, and it reflects terribly on me. I personally think that I don't think this woman feels any degree of embarrassment for this post. It strikes me as incredibly unprofessional, and I think it reflects poorly on the venue and the promotions company that she represents. I think she could have either just vented to a trusted friend or come up with a much better way to create conversation. I think it's fair for her to say, this is how much money our venue can afford to pay bands, or this is what we need from a band in order to pay. I get people asking me for weird stuff all the time, and I don't post about it. It's only when the really weird stuff comes along and I post about it. And then it's funny to me. But what was really sad, and it is despicable what the scene is turning into. What was sad to me is that there was this discussion that ensued, and I saw some pretty insane commentary, including a gentleman saying, I guess they have no idea what's going on in the industry. One time I sent management a request for All Time Low to come play Chicago, and they said 60,000. And I was like, wait, is there an extra zero in that reply? So he's acting indignant. I think that's how I interpret this comment, that a huge band with millions of followers is asking for 60,000 to play a show. Okay. Weird, but the comments and tell me how you feel about this. There were a bunch of people commenting that, and they're musicians themselves. One guy says, we're happy to make gas money. Another guy says, I'll play for free. Um, Another guy says, I throw a few shows a year myself, which implies that he's not a professional at this. So maybe shut the fuck up. Um, I pay 4 or 5 bands $120 a piece out of pocket. I don't look for money back. Then what are you doing? It's interesting to see how people view musicians in different worlds, because I think we're so entrenched in hip hop, R&B, and also looking at it from a different perspective from, a brick and mortar venue. And I think they do have very separate challenges from what we do and what recording artists do. And I think it's an important conversation because, like, I run a nonprofit and we book artists all the time and we pay artists. We're not paying them, this little ridiculous $120 for a set. And if there's a band playing, we're damn sure paying them more than $800. But there are solo acts that have, 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify asking for ridiculous numbers. Like, yeah, we got 1,500 for this 15-minute set. And it's just like, hold on. What we don't do is go online and rant about it, but we would present a more realistic counter offer and say, hey, look, we can do 500. Right. I mean, that seems reasonable. I don't see this as a war between artists just because they have an asking price. Everyone's got to eat, and venues, they have to make it work for themselves. So it can be a respectful conversation.
Right. I'll weigh in just a second. Hold on one second.
So while Dame is gone, I just want to make a couple of comments. One, I'm a fan of that furniture. I also like the industrial look. It's this industrial mid-century modern fusion of that office decor.
So normally there's a lot of people in the office a little later in the morning. So like if it doesn't sense emotion in like 30 minutes, like the lights will shut off. So I didn't want the internet to cut off. So, but going back to the conversation, like it's just different. Like there's different types of venues, right? Just because you're an artist and you make music, that doesn't mean you deserve to make money to perform, right? You either are really good and it fits, like I said before, it fits like the ambiance, and it doesn't matter if you bring people through the door or not, and you can get paid, or you have fans and you're bringing people through the door, then you deserve to get paid, right? A lot of rappers that I see, especially, don't deserve to get paid based off their performance because their performance is terrible. And you don't typically have venues that just have like a rapper in the corner like you would at some venues that have like somebody playing the piano or like a small group playing jazz or something because you want to hear that while you're eating, or something like that. So again, I just don't want people to think, oh, I make music, like I should get paid. Like, no, you have to either be really good and fit the vibe and mood of that establishment, or you have to be able to bring people in the door, right? So I would suggest people get as many reps in as possible at places where you don't have to like even pay to play, right? Like there's open mic nights here in LA that I've seen, and probably in most cities. There's probably a little bit more opportunity in a bigger city like LA than there is New York. As always, like it depends, but I wouldn't expect to get paid until, like I said, you have people that are coming through the door to see you, or you and your band are like really good and you just fit the vibe of what they're looking for. It doesn't matter if you bring people through the door or not. So
do you think performers are now expecting to skip steps in the sense that because now people discover new music digitally through streaming, whereas 20 years ago they would discover new music at shows and open mics and that kind of thing. And now it feels like because a lot of those opportunities don't even exist anymore, people are like, well, I got 1,000 streams. now it's time for me to play my first show, I definitely deserve to get paid, because they're so far removed from that process of paying dues within the live performance arena.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists underestimate like how difficult it is to actually get people to buy a ticket to your show, right? Just because you got 1,000 streams, or even if you got 1,000 monthly listeners in your city, that doesn't mean people are going to pull up, right? I don't know. Everybody probably has a different formula. I was talking to Russell, and he has kind of like a formula for how many people he expects to show up in a city, and it's like based off like social media metrics, monthly listeners, streams in the area. He has like a little formula specific to him, of how what the conversion is of the audience listenership online versus like how many people will actually pull up. But from what I've seen, artists grossly overestimate like how many people will come to a show based off their metrics. Because it's difficult. It's difficult to get people to come to a show. I would encourage artists to work together, right? Like if there's some other people that have a little bit of pull in your city, like throw a show together. Or maybe you become the promoter and open up for, a larger act. So that way you can get in front of their audience, as the first artist or band playing. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get people to come to a show, especially because there's so much stuff you're competing with. I mean, people going to the movies, podcasters are touring now, comedians staying home and watching whatever's on TV because you got a billion different options of, streaming services and sports. And I mean, you got a lot of stuff you're competing with. So if you get 50 people to come to a show, I applaud you.
One thing I'll suggest, and this is being done in my city, is that there are a lot of public performance spaces that people don't even know exist and certainly don't utilize. So it varies from city to city. But what you could do here as an artist, and this is something that my nonprofit was doing, we had a limited, but we still have a limited budget. We're a nonprofit for marginalized forms of art and entertainment. But we would rent one of these public performance spaces for very cheap, invest it in the sound system, and then we'd book artists. So there's nothing stopping an individual artist from doing the same thing. And then you do that during peak hours because you can choose what time you rent that space. You do it when there's a lot of foot traffic, and you have your merchandising situation all, pretty much down, so that, yeah, maybe you're spending $30 on the rental, but you're going to get that back off sales or asking for donations because there's going to be a lot of foot traffic and people listening to your music. That's one option. And those kinds of non-traditional performances end up testing your abilities quite a bit because you don't have a captive audience. You're really earning that audience, and the people that you do earn, for a fact you've converted them into a fan just given the scenario.
I mean, and that's a great idea. I saw Anise. For those that aren't familiar, Anise is killing it. It's an artist that we work with here at Two Lost, but he started telling he's on a proper tour now. He's having like thousands of people come out to see him. But before that, I saw him tell his fans to pull up at the beach. Just pull up at the beach, and that's no cost, right? Like he just got, I don't know what he was. I don't know if he just sung without a mic or if he had like a little portable situation. But he just told his fans to show up at the beach, and like not only the performance, but like the social clips that you get from that is so dope. Like if you capture that experience for the fans, they just randomly pull up to the beach and you're singing and vibing out with your fans. Like, what you mentioned, I think is a great idea because you said it's only $30, but like there's probably some ways to get even more creative,
house parties.
Yeah. Depending on what your brand is, you can, if you have fans, a lot of times you can, your fans is kind of dangerous because sometimes your fans are a little off, or can be. So you have to make sure you vet them. But like even your fans might, pitch in to help. Maybe they might offer their home, or maybe maybe their family owns a restaurant, or
That's the thing. The house shows, backyard parties, people will actually play that circuit. Granted, it's not a huge moneymaker, but if you're selling merchandise, it's this really intimate experience for listeners. And
yeah,
the type of person that comes to one of those events is likely going to buy your merch or at least throw you some money because they know, number one, they're there getting this experience. They're primed for that experience. They know what they're getting. And so it's nothing for them to give you $25. So if there are 20 people there and they give you that, then hey, you're not losing money on this tour. There are
yeah.
just so many different options.
Yeah, I remember Fora before he got big. So LA obviously is a really big city, but within LA, you have like different pockets. You have like cities within the city, right? So I live in the Valley, but even within the Valley, you have like Pacoima, Panorama City, North Hills, North. There's probably like 8 or 9 different cities within a city. Like when I ran Funk Volume and we played LA, like we did a show for LA. That included LA, the Valley, people that lived in Long Beach. Like it didn't. But when Fora did a show as he was coming up, he would do shows, especially because his fans were younger and a lot of them didn't have access to a vehicle. Like he would do a show in each one of those little pockets, right? He'd do a show in Northridge. He'd do a show in North Hollywood. And he would have his he would rent out venues that weren't typically music venues, but he invested in speakers and had a mic. So he would just set up a little situation himself and he would hit those little pockets. And like you said, like that, those early experiences and those type of people that show up to those, he would kill it in merch, when he set things up. So it really just depends on like, do you have a good show? What your brand is, what your messaging is, to figure out like what strategy makes the most sense. But from what I've seen these hip hop shows in the last few years, like a very small percentage of them actually like put on a really good show. So I would focus on that. All the
Let's
folks
ex-
that didn't put on good shows.
let's extend that though. So okay, think about me, a very young version of me. Never sold a beat in my life. I just started making beats. My beats aren't very good, but I'm still putting a lot into them. I'm still investing in the equipment. I'm still investing my time in learning. The end result of that work is still a tangible product. It's a beat, right? Should I just give away all my beats because I'm starting out? Is my time still valuable? This is a question that I struggle with because a lot of up and coming producers will ask me, like, hey, I don't think my beats are very good yet. I'm selling them for $5 on BeatStars or, whatever it is. And I just think, I don't know if that's the way. What is your insight?
I think in the beginning it's going to be a lot of trial and error, but we have to be good A&Rs for every type of person that we work with, right? Like you don't want to give away free beats to people that you don't believe in or people that you don't think are dope, but if you really believe in this artist and you feel like there's a long-term relationship that could potentially be built and you guys can bring each other up, then you can start, then I think it makes sense to, give away beats. Right.
Well, because it's just like, I think the balance is finding a way to recognize that my beats aren't very good yet, and I still want to work with artists. So it still feels like if I'm working with a great artist, they're doing me a favor because my beats aren't there yet, but I still want to maintain that balance where I'm not getting used.
Right.
I know that I need the experience, so I'm cutting my teeth by this experience, but I don't want to get used. I don't want to, and I damn sure don't want my relationship with the artists I work with to remain the same way. So now I gradually want to, as I improve, become a better business person, ask for more money, that kind of, and I think that can be really fragile.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing is just, maintaining that communication with the person that you're working with. Obviously you're giving away the beat for free, but you're not giving away your IP. You're not giving away, your publishing. You got to be very clear on what it is that is free, right? There's just no upfront. I'm not charging you anything upfront, but can we work out a percentage on the master, and can I still get 50% on the publishing? Right. I wouldn't just be given free like work for hire situations, like ever. I don't care how good you think your beats are. I think, I mean, maybe there's a scenario that you can drum up where I would be like, okay, all right, but probably very few, if any. So yeah, so just protect yourself and just know on the business side, make sure you understand what we've been trying to drive home for the past 7 years. Like, what is the masters? What is the publishing? Make sure you understand that, so you understand what it is you guys are talking about and what it is you actually are giving away for free.
I mean, it really does come down to knowing what the music business is. And it is sad to see producers still contact me and say, yeah, okay, but like, what does BMI do? And you're like, oh my God, BMI's been around for over a century. I think at this point, you gotta get your life together. But the fact is, a lot of people don't know. And so they find themselves, especially producers, they find themselves in these situations where they don't even know the first step. They don't even know the language. They don't even know the possibilities to negotiating a beat sale, or even if they're giving away a beat for free, they don't know how to negotiate how ownership and equity are going to look. I mean, look, I've been doing this professionally for at least 15 years, and I still get people contacting me all the time talking about, yo, how much for this beat for me to own everything and you don't get anything. I'm just like, you're a bold motherfucker to come at me asking me that shit. It's like contacting a realtor and being like, yo, so how do I buy this house without paying you your fee? You know what I mean? Like, what? But people do it every day. And it just goes to show you how you have to really, unfortunately, sometimes just tell people no and lose out on that money, or feel like maybe you're going to lose out on that money. Like, don't be disrespectful. But something else you said that struck me was that, at first, when your beats aren't very good and you're giving free beats away to rappers, you need to communicate. Now, here's the thing. You can communicate as good as you want, as good as you possibly can, whether it's to a rapper. This applies to anything, regular jobs, romantic relationships, whatever. You can be a great communicator, and that other person to whom you're communicating can still spit in your face. So that's a learning opportunity. It's an ugly one, but like for me, starting out making terrible beats, not knowing the music business, not charging for my beats, and I'm feeling like I'm being used by the rappers that would come over to my parents' house to get free beats and record. And like, it was a cool experience until I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing all this damn work. I'm not getting anything out of it. I've learned a lot from these situations, but now I just feel like these rappers are using me. So when I start communicating, now we can't do this anymore, this has to change, a lot of them get upset and they're like, oh, you're not even that good. You switched up this and that. Okay, cool. Unfortunately, if you find yourself in that scenario, you have to be cool with cutting those people off and letting them walk away, because at any point in your life, when you make a transition and you're trending towards the positive, you're going to lose people around you, but these aren't the right people around you. And then once you graduate from the people that are bloodsuckers and you maintain the ones that are actually folks that give as much as they take, then you meet more like-minded people. That's been my experience, where, it wasn't just like suddenly I popped up and I'm like, oh, I got a plaque now, I'm charging a ton of money for my beats. It was a transition, but I just made it clear to people. And honestly, there were very few people who backed away from me. It was just kind of like, oh, I see the social proof there, and he's confident, and if that's what it is, that's what it is. If I want to work with this person, these are the terms. They're not unreasonable. But that's scary for a lot of people. So I just want to give producers some reassurance. Like, look, this is going to happen. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. I mean, rappers are a dime a dozen. I mean, producers are. I mean, there's a lot of people in this industry. right? What I would do is I was focused on getting as good as you can at your craft and work with the people where there's mutual respect. You just got to find those people, right? If people aren't giving you the respect that you deserve, then just move on. I don't care who they are or how talented they are. There's a lot of other artists to work with and artists on the other side. There's a lot of other producers to work with. You want to build like healthy, long-standing relationships. And you can't do it if there's a lack of respect. Uh, so, as dope as you think this artist may be, you know, get to the next one, start building with the next one. Um, yeah. And what you find is, and this goes for managers, artists, producers, like, the good people are connected, right? So like once you meet somebody that's solid, they're probably going to introduce you to somebody else in their network that's solid. These are like trusted relationships that you build over the course of years and years and years.
That's how we met.
Yeah. You just stay connected to the solid folks and you give opportunities to your tribe, right? If I see something that I think makes sense for Pain, I'm gonna hit him because I'm like, yo, even if it don't bring me nothing, it's just like, oh, he said he needed that. I know Pain. There's an artist in here that I showed Pain's beats to. I don't know if he reached out or not. That's not the point. Eventually somebody will, because I'm constantly plugging people and people are doing the same for me when I'm not in the room. So,
yeah,
that's what you need.
Well, speaking of plugs, Dan, what are you working on? How can people find out more information about your new position and everything that your company's offering?
So we're still figuring out the transition for the Music Entrepreneur Club. Issa Rae's company is definitely still taking it over. They're working on a new curriculum. We'll be involved in that transition. So hopefully we'll have updates. It's just been slower than expected. We'll have updates coming soon on what exactly is happening to the MEC, but it's not going away. Two Laws, as I mentioned in the beginning, music distribution and publishing. It's a self-service platform, but we also work with people. I mentioned even in this episode, in Nice, we have a team internally, an A&R team, a label services team. So, if an artist isn't ready to work with resources like that, you just kind of use the self-service distribution platform. It's got a ton of cool services and tools that are baked in. For example, I know we probably within the last couple months, there's an AI cover generator. So if you don't have artwork for your album within the platform, you can use the AI cover art generator, generate some cover art for your music within the platform. You can whitelist YouTube channels within the platform. You can see if
I like that part, obviously.
Yeah, you can see if we have BeatBread integrated within the platform. So if you have some streaming history, you can see it. If an advance, see if you can get an advance using BeatBread within the system. We got a lot of cool stuff that's kind of baked in. We're trying to make it so that artists don't have to go outside for much of anything, right? So we have a partnership with BMG. If you don't have a publishing situation, we could do pub admin within the platform. Obviously, doing split. We're working on advanced splits, right? An advanced split situation. So say you need to recoup $1,000 before you start splitting payments, right? You'll be able to say, okay, I need to recoup 1,000 and then start splitting 50-50 with my collaborator. Or you could do it the opposite way, right? You can say, split these payments up into $500. And then, so we're working on advanced split situation. We're working on advanced analytics so that you'll be able to see, not just some of the stuff that is basic, but you'll be able to see how your songs are moving in certain geographical areas and things like that. So I genuinely think it's at the end of the day, I will say that a distributor is not going to make or break your career. However, I do feel we have a platform and a team that makes certain things a little easier on top of all the community stuff that I plan on starting in the very near future that could be beneficial too. You might, meet your next collaborator or your next producer through some of the sessions that I start hosting. So look for that soon. So tolost.com. And as always, you can hit me, dame.mec at Instagram and Dame_MEC on Twitter.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Actually, that sounds like when you said they were forward thinking. That's all the stuff that I struggle with when it comes to distribution. So shout out to Two Loss for
And
doing all
and
that.
it looks and feels good too. Like I don't want to just become a Two Lost billboard, but like I said, this is genuine. Like I really think that we're onto something here. Like it looks really clean. Like when you log in, and it's only $3 a month. It's only $3 a month
Oh,
for
that's it.
$3 a month for an artist account, and I believe it's $6 or $7 a month for a label account. Or I think it's like $20 for the year or something like that. Like it's relatively inexpensive. I would say it's the cheapest, but I do know that there are distributors out there where you can just distribute for free, but I don't think it comes with all, the bells and whistles and support. I think that's the other big thing too. Like a lot of these other platforms, it's hard to get a human on the phone or a human to respond and email. That's not typically the case here. They try to build the platform so that you don't need to reach out to us as much. But when you do, I've been able to just connect people with our A&R team, our ops team to help them like migrate catalogs over and things like that. So yeah, it's dope.
Well, Dame, I appreciate you for coming back, and hopefully we see more of you.
Yes, sir. I'll be definitely try to tap in more often, but it seems like you guys are often running the No Pain, No Gain podcast. I support it 100%, and I'm going to try to tap in more often.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. And shout out to everyone tuning in. Be back same time, same place with another episode. Peace.
Peace.